Hello, welcome to another episode of the Rich Woman Rising podcast. I'm your host, Eloise Tomkins, and I love to help women regulate their nervous system so that they can hold and make more money with ease, so that making money is effortless because you're not stressed out, overwhelmed, anxious, and it just feels super fun and easy. And the thing is, I know that talking about the nervous system is not all that glamorous or not all that sexy, but it is also such a foundational part of money. And it's something that we don't talk about because it doesn't really feel like we're doing anything. And as high achievers, we like to do, we like to feel as though we are getting shit done. Totally get it. And the thing is, though, nervous system work, you actually are doing a lot. You are doing so much. You just don't realize that you're doing it because it happens gradually. And I was reminded of that this weekend where I went to a festival. Now, I am not a camping person. I have discovered I would love to be. I honestly, I love the idea of camping and I love being out in nature, having a fire, sitting around the fire with friends, all of that kind of stuff. But getting dirty, having dirt on me, having leaves stick to you, not having clean feet, not having a toilet that flushes. Oh my gosh, like camping in theory sounds great, but can I sleep in a little cabin that has all the amenities? Yes, please. Anyway, that wasn't the case this weekend. I did not have the amenities, at least not right next to me. But let me rewind a little bit even further because before I even got to the festival, I had decided that in order to be as comfortable as possible, I was going to hire a camper van. Now, the reason that I decided to hire a camper van is because as much as I would love to be a camping person, I know that I'm not. And I've had to come to terms with that. I've had to accept this part of myself, just like I've had to accept that I'm not a night person. I'm not a morning person. I'm a night person. And even though I would desperately love to be a morning person, I thrive better at night. So knowing this about myself, I'm like, okay, I know that if I have more comfort in the camper van, have a little fridge where I can put some food and drink in there that's going to be cold, I'm going to be at least a little bit more comfortable, which is going to help make my experience a little more enjoyable, which is going to help me and my stress levels, like just all my nervous system, like it's just going to help me have the best experience possible. And so these are decisions that I made for myself because I know myself, I know my nervous system, I know what I prefer. And when you're able to look after yourself and meet your needs, then it just helps provide that buffer, right? And so I knew that. So I was super excited, organized my camper van. I go and pick it up on the day that I was leaving for the festival. That went off without a hitch. Grab my van, chuck my dog in the car in the van, and drop him off at a friend's place. And then as I drop my dog off at the friend's place, I get back in my van, turn the ignition on. White smoke starts puffing up from the engine. And I'm like, huh, that's probably not great. But I put my foot on the accelerator and thought, oh, you know what? Maybe it's just warming up. No. I get 200 meters down the road and the smoke gets smokier and there is a burning smell. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I immediately pull over, message the owner of the camper van. I'm like, hey, he comes. He is like, yeah, you are definitely not going to be able to drive this. He's like, it's not your fault. It was a mechanical breakdown. Something gave like some belt or I don't know. I don't even know. Gave in the van and he's like, yeah, you are not going to be able to drive this. He's like, I'm so sorry, but you know, you can't like, there's no way that you can drive this. So I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? And part of me was obviously stressed. But then another part of me was like, okay, so what am I going to do? How am I going to solve this problem? And looking back on that, past me would have absolutely snowballed into oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. You have ruined my weekend. I would have been so mad at the guy, even though it wasn't his fault. I would have, I don't know, I probably would have cancelled the whole weekend and been like, fuck this, like, this is too overwhelming. My nervous system would have completely flooded and it would have made a mess of everything. And look, don't get me wrong, I was stressed. And I called my friend in a bit of a panic and I'm like, oh my God, this has happened. What do I do? What do I do? I don't camp. I don't want to camp. I don't have any camping gear. Like I'm like, I don't know, what do I do? And my friends rallied around and they were like, okay, so we have a mattress, we have a spare area in our tent. You'll be okay. We will make this work. And because of all the work that I've done on being able to regulate my nervous system, I was able to slow things down. I was able to breathe and I was able to think somewhat clearly. Maybe not in that exact moment, because when I spoke to my friend later, she was like, Ellie, I was talking to you and like nothing I was saying was going in. I'm like, yeah, I was pretty overwhelmed in that moment. I was trying really hard not to cry. But the thing is, like, when you have a regulated nervous system, right? It's not about bypassing the stress. And I think this is something that we can think with our nervous system, right? We think that it's about bypassing the stress. Oh, you're just not going to get stressed ever. And you're going to be zen, and just like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. No, the thing is, with a regulated nervous system, you don't bypass the stress. You just don't become the stress. There's a difference. Old me would have completely spiraled. And I would have, I don't even know. I don't even know what I would have done. That maybe I would have been like, fuck this, I'm not coming for the weekend. And then I would have, stayed at home and cried and been like, oh, they're all having fun without me. My life is shit. Everything's shit. Or I might have gone and then just had a shit weekend. But what I actually did was I got in my car, I packed up my car, and I went home and I grabbed a few extra bits and pieces that I thought I might need and made it to the festival. And my friends had a few bits and pieces that I borrowed. I slept in my car for the weekend, in the back of my car. And I put it, like, one of my friends had a mattress that I could put in there, like a blow-up mattress. And I slept on that. And it was fine. And I was lying in my car and I thought to myself, how lucky am I that I'm able to afford this car that I can sleep in? How lucky am I that I've got friends who rallied around and helped me? How lucky am I that I have been able to come away on this weekend? And my friends checked in on me over the weekend. They're like, how are you going? I know it's been a bit of a stressful weekend for you. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It was a bit stressful yesterday, but it is what it is. I'm just rolling with it. And that is a regulated nervous system because it doesn't have to take over absolutely everything. Now, it also wasn't just that, right? Like, there were other stuff that went wrong over the weekend, including, like, the camper van was the biggest one because I had no food that I could take with me because it was all refrigerated and I didn't want to bring my esky because just logistical reasons. And there was a lot. There was a lot. But then my car battery died on the way home, like, because I left it on all weekend. I had my key in the ignition. I wasn't thinking. I'm not a camper, okay? I'm not a camper. My friends afterwards were like, why did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I was trying to charge my phone. Like, I just left my car on. I didn't think it would drain the battery. Thankfully, around a group of lesbians, stereotypes exist for a reason because one of them had a 4-wheel drive with battery pack and boom, she fixed it immediately. And I was like, thank you. So things worked out. But even though everything had snowballed and piled up, like, there was the spa broke down. We were meant to go to the spa. That broke down. Like, there was just a lot that didn't go the way it was meant to over the weekend. And what I recognized is that even though there were moments where I wasn't calm when I spoke to my friend and I was just like, oh, very dysregulated in that moment, it didn't mean that I lost my capacity to enjoy my weekend. It didn't mean that I got swept away by that stress. It didn't mean that the stress was who I had become, right? It just meant that I had space between the trigger and which was the van and the white puffy smoke, and how I reacted, how I chose to respond in those moments. And that is regulation, and that is powerful because when you can see it happening in real time, and a lot of my clients will talk about it like, oh, I look back and I wish I did X, Y, and Z. Regulation is about being able to, in the moment, do that thing that you wish you did in the moment. And it's not always going to be perfect. And you still might look back and go, like, I I don't even remember this. My friend told me this later. She's like, when you're on the phone with me, you're a bit snappy. And I was like, oh my gosh, was I? I'm so sorry. She's like, it's all good. I get it. You were really stressed. You were really overwhelmed. She's like, you weren't snappy at me. You were snappy because there was a lot going on. You were trying to understand things. So I'm really lucky to have such amazing friends. But it was just interesting because in the moment I thought I was trying my hardest to just be calm and regulated as best I could in that moment. And then to kind of hear afterwards, it was like, no, you're actually, pretty stressed and irritable. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting because had I have not been aware of my responses, I probably would have been even more irritable and probably not very nice, right? So having that awareness helped so much. It helped to maintain my connection with my friend. Um, and this is where I talk about regulation is not just money, like there's so much to it. But the festival itself was incredible, aside from the dirty feet and the camping and the wasps, but it was incredible. And spending 3 days uh, in nature was so good for the soul. But one thing I noticed was how loud the energy of scarcity was. It was everywhere. Now, as I was walking and being around the stages, listening to performers, even listening to my friends, like the performers on stage when they were or when the MCs were on stage, they would say things like, "Oh, we're camping because we're poor. Put your hand up if you're poor." And everyone laughed and people put their hands up, right? And it wasn't just one comment. Like I heard this across multiple stages in various kinds of formats. Like there was another one where some people were glamping, other people were camping, and a joke was made about how the glampers had more money and the campers, like they were pointed out and like, oh, you are the poor ones, aren't you? Hands up over there if you're poor. And look, I get that it's jokes, right? However, it's really interesting to reflect on this as a society. Money and scarcity is everywhere. Even my friends, right? They noticed something that I owned and they were like, oh, that's expensive. That brand's really not cheap. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess. Um, and it's just these small little comments that people make around money, whether it's their body language, whether it's their tone of voice, or even like subtle competition, around like one of my friends had a really nice car. And just like little comments around, oh, how can you afford that? Like just these little things. And it's not that people were necessarily talking overtly about money, but it was just everywhere, subtle comments, constant. And it was unchecked, like in the sense that nobody was aware, right? It was just that these are our beliefs. These collectively are our beliefs, like, oh, we don't have money, there's not enough. And it made me realize that this is how our unconscious beliefs around money show up. We have these beliefs about how much money we can hold. And there's this expectation that we're not going to be able to make more of it. We've got this limited supply of it. And things are expensive, or you're poor. And it's this deep embedded in our culture because and this is like what dysregulation around money looks like, right? Because it's normalized. It's so normalized for us to, oh, we don't have money. Ha 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 ha. We're poor. Ha 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 ha. This is just our life. Ha 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 ha. Doesn't it suck? Ha 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 ha. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. No, I mean, have you ever thought that you could change your circumstances if you wanted to? Have you ever thought that you could do something different about your circumstances? Have you ever thought that it doesn't have to be this way? You can, if you want to, change your circumstances. And I just find that fascinating because there isn't that mentality, there isn't that mindset. And I think that's what makes entrepreneurs different, right? Because we do have a different mindset. We do have a different way of thinking. And we do have a different way of thinking about money as well. But we also get caught in that societal lens as well. Because if this is what I was noticing in just a 3-day weekend, and I noticed that like this is my job, right? Like, and I'm a psychologist, like I observe human behavior. I can't help myself. My brain is just very analytical and I love it. I find it fascinating. So I see this stuff and I share it with you because what I want you to be aware of, or what I invite you to think of, is how are the subtle ways that you talk about money? Or what are the things that you notice about money and how it's spoken about in your environment, with the people that you love, with the people that are around you, with your friends, with the circles that you find yourself in, with your partner? Because those conversations are going to influence you, whether you realize it or not. And what we want to do is bring that into awareness. We want to bring your awareness to these topics because when you become aware of it, that is when you get to be able to choose how you respond. And then you can regulate your responses, your nervous system around that, right? Because at the moment, when we're not aware of it, we go along for the ride. Like when they were talking about at the festival, you know, you're camping, you're poor, and everyone's laughing. I didn't laugh. I was like, no, I don't subscribe to that. No. I get that it's a joke. And I wasn't standing there like sullenly like you're a dickhead. But I was just like, you know what? No, I'm conscious that that's not my narrative to hold. It's not my collective narrative to hold. And no, I don't want to subscribe to that. So this is where the whole concept of regulation and conscious awareness come into it, because the more that we can notice how our experiences of money show up day to day, the more that we can actually begin to shift them. But if we're not aware of them, we can't shift them, right? So that's why I wanted to share my story with you, because there was a point where I would have been completely unaware and unaware of my own emotional reaction and responses. And then subsequently unaware of how that would have impacted my friends. Probably wouldn't have cared because I wouldn't have known. And then wondered why I would have had a shit weekend, right? So being able to regulate, being able to see the bigger picture, being able to hold that space for that stress, because it was stressful. I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't stressed. I was stressed. It was shit, but it didn't consume me because I have a regulated nervous system. I know how to do that. I was able to breathe. I was able to pause. I was able to slow down the responses. And the way that I did that is by intentional daily practice, right? It's not oh, cool, I now know about regulation and I'm going to do that when I'm stressed. You know, that doesn't happen. It's actually quite funny because I will have clients, particularly my psychology clients, where we'll do some work and they'll have this massive light bulb moment and they're like, oh my goodness, I've just uncovered, I can see it clearly now. I'm like, awesome. They're like, yeah. So the next time that I get stressed, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm not going to respond in that way. And I'm like, okay, let's dial that back just a little. And they look at me and they're like, I have jumped ahead 10,000 steps, haven't I? And I'm like, maybe. So we kind of rein it back a little bit. I think it's quite cute, actually, because they get so excited and they're like, yes, I just want to do the things. I'm like, let's just pull this back, um, because knowledge isn't enough, right? Knowledge is not enough when it comes to regulation. It is an embodied practice. And I was thinking about this. Even me a couple of years ago would have responded differently to me this weekend. And me in 2 more years would probably, time in the future, will probably respond a different way, right? So we're constantly evolving. And I love that. Like, how cool is that, that we're constantly evolving? But regulation is small. It's small micro moments. Oh God, I talk about micro moments a lot because it is. It's like an investment account, right? Like you put money in and you don't get like your $10,000 interest overnight. That accumulates and compounds over time. It's like nervous system regulation. It accumulates over time and it requires small moments that build up and up and up and up and up. And eventually you look back and at a situation like this weekend and you go, wow, how cool was that? And the thing is with regulation, like you can learn it, right? And often it is a piece that is the missing piece, right? Because when your nervous system is regulated, like you learn that it's not about the van blowing up. It's not about all of the things that went wrong, the car battery dying. It's not about the conversations around money. It's about what happens when your nervous system is no longer fighting against you. It's working with you. And that's what happens when you're no longer afraid of money, even when you have it. And this is why I've created Regulate to Riches, because I see so many women who experience this, right? Like they have that sense of feeling at war with their nervous system and feeling like, oh my goodness, it's just impossible for me. And I've created Regulate to Riches, which is a 28-day program that helps give you all of my favorite regulation tools, tips, and tricks that can help you stay grounded in different moments. And I have worked through all of the tools in the Regulated to Riches program because I don't, all of the stuff that I share with my clients is all stuff that I've tried. Not all of it is my favorite stuff, for sure, but I've tried it because I think that's important. I think, if I'm going to offer something to someone, I want to have tried it myself. And I certainly have some of my favorite tools and tricks and tips that I love for myself. Breathing is one of them for me. I really like to just pause and take a breath when I feel overwhelmed. For me, that's a really nice anchor point. But if you do want to get a little bit of a taster as to what the fuck I'm talking about when I speak about regulation and what that looks like, Regulate to Riches is the perfect starting point for you because it really is simple, actionable tools. And there's 28 days worth where you can find the tools that work for you. Not only that, it also talks you through your subconscious, your nervous system, your money blocks as well. So you get to learn more about where your nervous system's currently at with money as well. So there's an educational component in there. And the thing that I love most about it is I made this program so that it's digestible 10 to 15-minute episodes because I realized that, we're busy people. I don't know about you, but I'm busy. And I'm guessing you are too, which is why I made it super accessible so that you're not, having to spend hours and hours and hours doing the work to regulate and to learn about regulation. So I'm going to pop that in the show notes for you if you're interested, because those are absolutely the tools that really got me through this weekend and get me through my moments and help anchor me when I do feel overwhelmed. So go check that out. And I hope that you found this episode enjoyable. And despite all of that, I actually did have a really good weekend. I loved hanging out with my friends. And felt so, this sounds so corny, but I did. I felt really blessed to be able to have friends who were able to support me when shit hit the fan. Um, so that was really cool. I have decided I'm still not a camper. Um, but it was fun. I loved being out in nature. It was really good fun. And the festival was awesome as well. So yeah, I'll pop the link for Regulate to Riches for you below to go and check out. Have a fantastic week, and I cannot wait to share another episode of the podcast with you next week. So until then, take care of yourselves, and I'll chat with you all next week. All right, bye.